Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome once again to that Monday extravaganza known as Steeler Q&A on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Once again, I'm Bryan Anthony Davis. You know me as Bad. Along with me is my good friend Tony Defeo from Behind the Steel Curtain as well. Tony, what's going on?
How's it going, Brian? Happy Monday. It's a gorgeous day here in Pittsburgh. How's it over there in Maryland?
I tell you what, it's beautiful. I was outside for a little bit. I power washed this weekend. I hurt my back power washing, then my power washer broke. So if anybody has an extra tube, like one of those hoses they could send me, that you can do that. Or if you want to come power wash for me, you can. But no, it's fantastic. May is here. And as you know, I'm always wearing black and gold, right? I'm not wearing Redskins today. You see what I'm wearing? I swear it's not Redskins. Tony, have you looked at the calendar, my friend?
I have.
May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you.
We've got a little chewy going on here. So feeling good there. But I am going to put some black and gold on in a little bit in honor of our guest. And I'd like to welcome our guest here, a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan ironically, a huge New York Jets family. He is also the color analyst, I believe, for the Richland High School Rams in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. A fantastic program that is I want to say on the rise, but no, they've been around for the last 10, 15 years in the state playoffs the last few years. We're going to talk to Ed DiMartino. Ed, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, my friend. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Ed and I go back 40-some years.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah.
So, and like I said, I was very good friends with Ed's family, all New York Jets fans. I always found solace with Ed. He doesn't share the Penguins thing with me, but he shares the Steeler thing with me. So I always appreciated that with Ed. So as far as it goes, glad to see you, Ed. We're going to talk a lot of Steeler football, and we're going to talk some Richland Rams football towards the end too.
Fantastic. So, if look behind me, Brian, though, I got the slap shot. I don't know if I go this way. Shot poster behind me.
I saw that.
I think this is Brian Trottier's leg.
Well, hey, Trotch is okay with us because he held two cups with us, not as many with the Islanders, but he held two with us. And I'll never forget one of the greatest moments of my sporting fan lifetime was watching him in 1992 when the parade, the Stanley Cup parade had been diverted to Three River Stadium. They had the tarp out. I was on the third base side, and he's running with the cup, sliding across the tarp. It was absolutely awesome. Yeah, I do have a raspy voice. So Tony might have to take over for me a little bit here. But Matt P. Steeler, Tony says, fantastic job on your first solo show, and we have to mention that too. Great job, Tony.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah,
it was. So
thank you. Yeah.
So 1 week of totally tone deaf got us there. So without further ado, let's get into the topic for the day. And this is something that's been on the mind of Steeler fans for a long time. And it's about the power level of Ben Roethlisberger. And here's the deal. The guy's a 16-year vet. He's going into his 17th season. And he has earned a great bit of power. He's the man in the locker room. He's the captain of the team. But when it comes to organizational decisions, how much power does Ben actually have, and how much power should he have? So I'm going to go to you first on that. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, I've always been of the mindset that if you have a quarterback of his level and caliber and what he's accomplished, over his first 6 years, the things that he accomplished, he quarterbacks like him, whether it's Brady, Aaron Rodgers, you name it, Dan Marino throughout history, they have a large amount of influence on the team. I mean, they're basically the most important cog in the organization. I mean, we know how hard it is for teams to win when that guy's gone. Whether it's Terry Bradshaw or whomever. You look how long they struggled to win a championship. Before they found Big Ben in 2004. So does he get the final say? No, but I mean, his opinion, I think, has a lot of weight to it, as it should.
Okay, well, a lot of this came up a few years ago when Mason Rudolph was drafted. We'll talk about that in a moment. It also came up the other day when Nate Burleson came out and said, I believe it was on CBS Sports or the NFL Network. I'm not sure who he was representing at the time, but Nate Burleson comes out and says Ben has way too much power, and he's the reason that they didn't draft a quarterback in this draft. I kind of disagree with that. Ed, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Tony there. I think the quarterback, he's earned the right to ask for certain things. I don't think he should have total control, but I think his input should carry a lot of weight with that. Wants it to go, how he wants to run the offense. I would certainly give the control to Ben. I think he's earned that right.
Now, when a few years ago, like I said, about 2 years ago now, Ben came out and I was listening to live when he was on the Fan at the time, the Fan Morning Show, and he came out and said, "Look, I was shocked that they brought in Mason Rudolph at this time. Why don't they give me weapons?" And I know that's a thought that's of course, right now Aaron Rodgers is saying the same thing because of drafting Jordan Love, and that was a surprise there. You know, the Mason Rudolph thing, he was a third rounder. He wasn't a first rounder at the time, and it was brought in for depth. And a lot of people thought that Ben was being a little indignant when he said that. But as a quarterback, I understand he's going to want more weapons because we keep on talking about that Steeler window, that win now. Of course, it's win all the time. But when you have a ticking clock on a veteran quarterback, you're going to do everything you can to get him the team, the weapons to win now. And as you noticed in not just the draft, but in free agency, they brought in weapons for him to win now. That was evident when they brought in Eric Ebron, when they brought in Derek Watt at fullback, because he's actually a weapon. He could catch the ball out of the backfield. The king of the 1 and 2 yard plunges. He could get in the end zone. He opens things up for the other red zone weapons. And also bringing in Wisniewski. I mean, those are 2-year contracts on those guys. A 3-year for Mr. Watt. But with that window, you could tell that they're respecting that window. Now, the drafting of Chase Claypool brings him that big receiver that he's been wanting, that 6'4" guy. He had a huge guy in Martavis Bryant. That didn't work out. But bringing in Claypool, bringing in other guys like Dotson, Dotson's going to be a backup on the line, but also Anthony McFarland that could be a weapon out of the backfield. They're looking at win now. So Ben's fine with what they brought in, but I don't have an issue on the quarterback thing. What I have an issue is last year when they brought in a 5th-round draft pick that was a tight end, wore number 83, and wanted to wear number 83 here. And he insisted that he wears 81 or what have you because he hasn't earned the right to wear 83. So fast forward to this year, Chase Claypool was the number 1 draft pick. And a number 1 draft pick is he's a lot more important than number 5. So he's coming in as although he's not the number 1 draft pick, he's the number 2 draft pick, but he's the top pick of the team. He's a lot more important. And he comes in, wore 83 in college. So I was willing to bet. I almost hit submit on my Chase Claypool jersey with 83 because I knew it was going to happen. And here I'm wrong. So don't take me to Vegas. I'm going to screw up. I'm going to lose your house. But what I'm saying here is he actually had superimposed picture of him, Claypool did, wearing number 83. All of a sudden, last week comes out, he's number 11. Did Ben Roethlisberger have anything to do with that? Did the Steelers say that to respect Ben Roethlisberger or Heath Miller, who hasn't been with the team in 4 seasons now? So, Tony, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I wrote something about that last year whenever it came out that he asked the rookie Zach Gentry at the time to not wear number 83 out of respect for Heath Miller. So if the same thing happened again, I'll say the same thing that I said last year. He needs to not worry about stuff like that. That's really shouldn't be any of his concern. You want to talk about who the offensive coordinator is and having influence on, in the play calling and stuff like that, the designing of the offense and who you want to be your top receiver, like who you want to work with in the offense, things of that nature. Yeah, I'll give that to you, but don't worry about who's wearing what number. First of all, when I think of 83, and this might offend a lot of people, but when I think of number 83, I think of Louis Lips because he was one of my he was one of my childhood idols, one of my heroes as a kid. So it means different things to different people. So for him that's going to turn a lot of people off when he does stuff like that. Other things, that's more his right. This, I mean, that's petty.
Yeah, you know what? I will I'll back you up on that as well. And yeah, I think of them both equally because in the right before camp starts, I do every single year. I do Digit Dynasty, where I pick the best Steeler to ever wear the number. I usually have a tie, or I go back and forth each year with Lips or Miller because they're both very important to the organization. The thing with Louis Lips for me and Heath Miller, when Heath started catching balls, everybody thought, are they booing him? They started with the Lou.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
They started with the Lou, and it turned into Heath, but it still had hints of Lou in it. So, 83, I thought Claypool would be a great addition to that and make that an amazing number. But, numbers don't matter. You make the number. The player makes the number, and he could make 11. And, 11, if you look back, when Dante Moncrief and Mr. Graham, Kent Graham is probably your best 11s along with Marcus Wheaton, then this guy has a chance to be the best 11 probably of all time right away. Ed, what's your thought on the numbers with Ben and him talking a little more, putting his nose into the organizational part of it with saying, guy can't have this number.
Nah.
Should he just stick to the field?
Just stick to the field. Exactly. Things you want to do, as Tony said, offensive coordinator, how you want to offense, that's fine. This, he should keep his nose out of it. Yeah, absolutely.
So here's my next question for you, Ed. Now, this is a trick question. If you listen to the show, you know the answer. You know my answer. Who is the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Is it Randy Fichtner? The answer is no, Ed.
I'm going to say no. No, it's definitely Ben. Yeah.
Yeah. And Tony.
Well, no, it's the same thing with the backup quarterback situation. I mean, does Ben have any more influence over the offense than Tom Brady did in New England when he was there? Does he? I mean, Josh McDaniels, yeah, he was the offensive. Was it Josh McDaniels last year or in the last few years? He was the offensive coordinator, but obviously Tom Brady had a huge influence, and he also, from what I understand, what's been reported over the years, he had a huge influence in Jimmy Garoppolo winding up in San Francisco. So, why is Ben? I mean, people I don't understand like the national hatred of Ben and somebody like Nate Burleson just coming out and talking in absolutes about, well, he prevented them from drafting a backup quarterback. How does he know that? I mean, does he have sources? So that's just really all I wanted to say about that. Sorry. That got me fired up.
I can tell, fired up as you get. I just met you. You got fired up quickly.
Yeah.
Ed, you got to check out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com because when Tony,
I've actually gone on a couple of times and checked it out before doing this. So I enjoy you guys.
Tony is our best as far as commentary goes, and Tony and I liken ourselves to Ric Flair and Arn Anderson of BTSC. We're kind of the heels, but Tony knows how to get them fired up. He's a lot more tame here on the podcast, but when he gets the commentary hat on, he lets it go. It's funny. April 1st. If you go back to April 1st, check out his mock draft where he trades everybody for everybody, every draft pick, everything.
Hey, but Tony, those make the drafts fun. When there's a lot of trades, let's face it, that makes things fun.
Oh yeah. I mean, look at last year. That was a blast what they did for Devin Bush.
He traded a number 1 in 2022 for a long snapper in number 7 in the 7th round. So it was great. And then people were like going crazy. And our editor finally said, "Hey, look at the date. Look at today's date, please."
Well, I'm like Bret Hart in '97. I'm a face in Canada and a heel in America. For some people love me on video, but they hate me in print.
Lance, you're a heel too.
I just saw his pop up. Yeah.
So Lance is our Lance does the standard as the standard. Yeah, I said it. He's on a multiple podcast as well. He is definitely a heel of BTSC as well. So I'm going to bring that up. So we need one more, so we could have a four horsemen here. I mean, I might even give up my Ric Flair role to to a Lance, Tony. I wouldn't have to do that.
Actually, I was going to say, I think Lance is more like a Triple H level heel. He just doesn't care. He just goes straight forward and doesn't. He brings the sledgehammer every time. He just doesn't care. Yeah.
Maybe we switch it to Evolution. You could be Batista there, Tony. How about that?
I'll take that. Probably more like Randy Orton. I think that'd be more my speed, but I'll take Batista.
There we go. We go off on wrestling a lot on these shows.
I'll be a bushwhacker.
Hey, there you go. What a reference.
Oh yeah.
Back in the day, Tony,
you were here for many WrestleManias, so
yeah, because we had the I found no surprise, and I found a cheater box way back.
Yeah, and we had it back in the day. Yep.
So back in the early '90s, we would watch all the WrestleManias, and we watched movie after movie after movie, and lots of fun. At Ed's house, that was the hangout, and so I remember you guys. We always laughed because the Bushwhackers, they'd come in for the Royal Rumble, they'd come in real quick, and next thing you know, they're gone. Like 2 seconds, they're gone. So, anyways, so back to Ben Roethlisberger here. Look, I'm for him having all the power that he wants because what he has done this year has been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, not this year. In his career has been absolutely phenomenal. 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 wins. I still think he has an MVP in him. Not team MVP because he has those. I think he has an NFL MVP award in him. Could that be this year, fellas? Tony?
Whew. Well, I mean, he's not going to be lacking in motivation because so many people have spent the offseason just tearing him down. You know, why is he even trying to come back? Who's that one guy who said he was out of shape a while ago and said the Steelers really were doing themselves a disservice by not signing a veteran quarterback by not drafting one? You know, the guy from CBS Sports, he's definitely has a lot of people downing him. So he's not going to. Yeah, or Lance. Here you go, Lance. That's right. He might be the best of the best. So he's going to have a lot of people. He has a lot of reasons to be motivated. So it's not going to be from a lack of motivation.
Okay, Ed, yes or no? Can Ben win an MVP?
Absolutely. I think he comes back fired up this year. I think he's ready to roll. If he's going to do it, this is going to be the year, Bryan.
Here's the question, though. Will the NFL allow Ben to win MVP?
The only thing I'll say with that, I think I'm going to say yeah, but I still think he should have a Super Bowl MVP the year that Santonio Holmes won it. I think that was Ben's year to win a Super Bowl MVP, and he didn't win it. I don't know what you guys think. That's my feeling. I think that drive, every time Ben dropped back, how many people were at his feet? 3 guys rushing him. He made throw after throw after throw. Completes great pass to Santonio in the back of the end zone.
Right.
And Santonio gets the MVP, and I'm sorry, that was Ben's MVP.
You could even split that in half. The Cowboys in Super Bowl 12 split it in 3s. Was it 3s? No, 2 guys.
I think it was just 2s. Yeah.
It was Harvey Martin and from Maryland, Randy White. So there you go. So yeah, they split it in 2 that year. But you know what? I would love to see Ben win it. I think he can. Look, this offense, you can have all the weapons you want. Ben could come back and solidify everything. Everybody talks about J.K. Dobbins and why they should have drafted J.K. Dobbins. I think Ben makes the running game better. I think Ben makes the receiving core better. I think the line, and I'll ask you this, fellas, and I'll start with you, Ed. Is the offensive line of the Pittsburgh Steelers better when Ben Roethlisberger is behind quarterback, or does it matter? You saw what happened with Duck and Mason. Is it better with Ben there? Do they play a different style because of who the quarterback is?
Maybe just a sign of more comfort with Ben. For me, I think they're a little more confident when Ben's back there, knowing they can make a mistake. Ben's okay. I wouldn't necessarily say they're better. I think they're gonna play as they're gonna play. Bryan, I think the offensive line is built pretty well. I think they're probably a little more confident with Ben being back there.
And here's a question for you, Tony. As we're going to shift over to more Pittsburgh Steelers stuff, who is going to be the starting tackle the starting guard on the left side this year?
Actually, I think they're going to go. I think they're going to just put Wisniewski in at the beginning of the year because he's a veteran. He's been around. He started the last 2 Super Bowls for 2 different teams. So or 2 out of the last 3, I think. So he's somebody you can put in there if for just one season. So I think it's going to be Wisniewski. He's going to win it in camp. They're going to want to keep the line as much intact as they can. And why disrupt 2 positions when you only have to worry about disrupting 1? But I do look for Dotson to make strides and maybe be the starter by the end of the year.
Ed, do you think that there is any shot that Kevin Dotson starts with this team? And here's a second question. As far as Matt Filer goes, where would you rather see him play on the line?
I would say no to question 1. And question 2, not sure. Let's put it that way.
I prefer Matt Filer as a tackle, and because everybody knows my feelings on Chooks. I just don't think he's the guy, and there's very few that I'll say that about. But then again, I really didn't see Marcus Gilbert as the guy, and he proved me wrong too. So like I said, don't take me to Vegas. I'm wrong a lot. I have no problem admitting that, and I'll do it all day long.
That's why I abstained from answering your question, Brian.
there you go. Dave Schofield on the radio network is like that. He kind of abstains all the time. So now he's going to be typing in and yelling at me pretty soon too. So with that being said, we're talking about actually, let me jump in here. We've got something from down under here. And oops, sorry, Wes. Matt P. Steeler, we've got Aussie dollars. I don't know what the conversion rate for 4.49 is, 4.49 in Australia, but awesome. Punt Barry plus Dopey Dan and the Electronic Football Man. So looks like he wants Jordan Berry gone. Dopey Dan, that's the first time I've heard Shade Tree McCullers called that. And the Electronic Football Man, of course, Ryan Switzer. So there is a thought, and I want to ask you about that. But first, Matt P. Steeler, thanks so much. Good day, mate, because I know it's early down there in Australia. We appreciate it. And thank you for your contribution on the live chat. Anybody that wants to get their question to the top of the queue, feel free to. You can go ahead and use our live chat. We use that money. As you can see, the microphone. Also, for the contest we've had many contests with the David DeCastro football. We've had a Juju Smith-Schuster jersey, a lot of things in the past. We're going to do a lot of that in the future. So that's kind of the things that money goes to. So if you do want to go ahead and use the super chat feature, feel free to. We do appreciate it. Thank you so much, Matt P. Steeler. Hey, we have got an international following, Ed, because we have people we've had Germany, we have had Australia, we've had Afghanistan. Where else, Tony? Oh, I believe we've Asia, Brazil.
Very good.
Where else, Tony?
Did you mention Mexico? I know we have a big presence down there, right?
Mexico. We've even gone as far as like Kansas before. So, but Mark Davison is one of the guys that he runs Steeler Nation Australia on Facebook. Check them out. It's a pretty cool group, and we have a big following in Australia now, and a lot of it's to Mark. So thank you so much for finding us. And I just found out that is $2.89 or so, and I appreciate it. So we forgot one, and X Eddie B's paying to let us know. Canada, baby.
There you go.
That's right.
Home of Mapletron. There's the next question.
That's right.
And an ex-Islander who will name nameless. Yeah. Don't get me started.
There's a lot of ex-Islanders from Canada.
There's one major one right now playing in Toronto, Brian. We shall not name names.
Okay, yeah, I won't bring it up. I promise it. But the Islanders have had the Penguins number the last couple of years, so we don't know if We don't have a problem with that. I can't pronounce that. I'm not going to try, but greetings from the UK. So I have family in the UK. In fact, went over there. Let's say like 3 years ago to the day, I was in London. So, and I was joking with everybody there. I was like, look, this is the second most famous big man that I'm looking at here in London. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, you all know. Actually, he's big following in London too. So, with that being said, one of the most important things that we talk about when we're talking about football is high school football. We don't talk about it a lot on this show, but for me, it starts at the high school level, and the pride, the lights. Where I come from, Tony, and where you come from, Western Pennsylvania, a long list of just high school dynamos that have gone into college, gone into the pros.
Absolutely.
Started off in Western Pennsylvania. You see it as far as California, Ohio, Texas, big high school football states. And when I went to Richland High School, I wasn't good enough to play. I stopped playing in 8th grade. But Richland High School, the Rams were an up and coming program. And in the last, I would say in the last 10, 15 years, they have really turned into a dynamo. And now this is not to be mistaken for the fine Pine Richland Rams in Pittsburgh, but this is Johnstown, Pennsylvania's Richland Rams. And what I'm going to do right here, I don't have Richland Rams swag, and I'm going to ask Ed's wearing it. I'm going to Ed's going to send it to me, but I've got a little tribute to Johnstown football. So hold on one second.
He's got the pipe jersey on. There you go. All the right moves. That's right. Tom Cruise.
And that's not my only pipe football jersey. If you know all the right moves. The other Johnstown movie, we talk about Slapshot, but the other Johnstown, Pennsylvania movie with Tom Cruise, Craig T. Nelson, and the hot Lee Thompson. I think she's still hot, and she's like almost 60. But this isn't my only All the Right Moves jersey. I actually have a 33 DeGeorgievich jersey that just came about a month ago. So I'm really proud about that. But I wanted to just wear the generic Ampipe football jersey today for the show. So Ed is the color commentator for the Richland High School Rams. And Ed, a great season last year, Final Four. Is that correct?
Final Four, lost to Southern Columbia in the semifinals. The Southern Columbia, who is touting the highest recruit in the country, and Julian Fleming. He got to face him. They're quite a program out there, and they really deserve their national championship, or their state title again, I should say, not national championship, but state title. I think it's their 10th one in the recent past. So they're quite a powerhouse, and Richland had the good fortune of making it there and facing them in the semifinals, and hoping to get another crack at them this year.
So what's the secret sauce with the Richland Rams? Because
I'm going to tell you, Brian, from what I've seen, and I'm actually the play-by-play announcer.
Oh, I apologize.
Fred Yannity is the color commentator. You remember Fred very, very well.
I know Fred very well.
Fred was
in fact,
former coach.
I went to a Penguins game once with Fred.
Back
former, in 1990. But he was the head coach when I was in high school.
He was former head coach, former special teams coach, and the athletic director. So I get to work with Freddie. PJ McGowan, again, one of your classmates.
Not only one of my classmates, I got to call him out on this. He was the star of Grease, the musical, our senior year, and I was one of his co-stars. We were both not T-Birds; they were called Burger Palace Boys. And PJ and I always knew him as Paul, but PJ and I, well, then again, nobody knew me as bad back then either. So, So, a great guy as well. I graduated with PJ.
Yeah, getting back to your question, Brandon Bailey came on board. I think this is going to be his 19th season, if I'm not mistaken, as the Richland Ram head coach. Brandon had a great career at Forest Hills. His father was the coach there, and his father just retired this last year, so he can watch his grandson, Kobe, play for Richland Rams. So and Brandon came on. The program really got humping. Brandon Roy gets these kids involved in some camps during the off season. Kids are buying into the program. They start in first grade. So you join as a Richland Rocket. First 2 years, first grade, second grade, you play flag football, but you're playing under the Richland scheme of plays. So these kids, when you start, you're learning the Richland Ram playbook. When you get to third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, you're playing tackle football, and the same thing. You are running the offense. And then when you get to junior high school, you're just moving up to another step. So the time you hit high school, if you stuck with that program from the beginning, there's nothing you have to learn, Bryan. It is hard work, dedication, get into camps. When they go into the weight room, everything's a competition, but it's a fun competition. Kids get motivated, and you see it on the football field. They had a tough run of injuries a couple years ago. At one point, they had 17 starters out. And watching Brandon coach the team, and at that point, I think I was in the second year of this major disaster of injuries. I got to interview him after every football game. And some of the football games, I mean, my gosh, you're down. You got 6 kids hurt in one game. You're on your 8th running back as you can find. I mean, they're pulling kids from everywhere just to do anything. And I'd be sitting on the sidelines, and when the game was over, I'd have to interview him. I'd go out to the 50-yard line and just kind of wait for Brandon to come over. And you would think that you would have some harsh words or, something's not right. And nothing but positivity out of that guy. Every hard loss I've seen them take, Brandon is the most gracious and considerate with those kids, and pumps them with a lot of good things. There was never a negative word that came out of his mouth after every one of those losses. And now for the last 2 years, big thing for us is the athletes have been there, and they've been healthy. Caleb Burke, last couple of years, just a stud. A D1 has a D1 scholarship, and he played at the University of New Hampshire. We had Trevor Tustin, who was just full of speed the last 2 years. We had a sophomore quarterback this year. And that team, I'm telling you, Bryan, they're just amazing.
Sophomore quarterback took
quarterback.
Wow.
Joe Hauser.
Yes,
I graduated. So Kellen Stahl jumps in first year right off the bat as a sophomore, and leads the team, sets all sorts of records at Richland. And this team is ready to roll, and they haven't lost many guys coming back. They're gonna think they lost about 5 high quality starters, and that's about it. So the offensive line, you only lose one lineman. You lose your center. Everybody else is back. Defensive line's intact, and this team is gonna have another good year. We're just hoping we can play football with this all what's going on with this virus. We're all hoping for another season, but if there is one, I find it hard pressed not to find Richland back in the state championship somewhere in the playoffs. So.
Well, that would be absolutely fantastic. And, one thing I remember, I was in college, but I remember reading about Brandon's college career because he played at UConn, am I not mistaken? So that's before they joined Division I. I think they were 1AA at the time. But I remember watching him play. I watched him play in high school because I was at all the games, even though I wasn't on the sidelines. I was with the band.
I was too, Bryan. So, hey, I was in the band too, my friend.
Yeah, and I was in the band because Ireland was Mike Podolowski took us to Ireland, or my freshman year.
Here we go again. I graduated the year before you went to Ireland, so I have to hear this. I hear this all the time. So I was not on that trip, unfortunately.
The great thing about Richland High School when I was there, the band and the football players had a great relationship.
Yes.
And they would carry our equipment, and they would come to the competitions with us, and they'd come on the trip. So it was fantastic. It was very tight-knit back then. I love what I'm hearing out of that program now. You talked about Brandon's father. I went to his football camp in 1983. I actually I remember the T-shirt because they had the same helmet decals at the same time, the same R.
Yeah.
But they were green and gold, and Richland was red and blue. But high school football is the fabric of what we talk about, and this is where these guys get started. It's so great to talk about a Western Pennsylvania program. Hey, I'll talk about any program in Western Pennsylvania. It's fantastic because this is great. So glad to have you on, Ed. And I got to tell you, Tony had to listen to me the entire fall last year. Every Monday we'd come on and I would update how Richland did over the weekend. It would be like 30 seconds, and I would mention a coach by name.
Was probably one of the most explosive teams in the state last year. I mean, watching them roll up points week after week after week. Anybody can beat you from anywhere. Trevor Tussin out of the backfield, Caleb Burke down the field, about 4 kids running the football. And I can't tell you how many kids touch the football. And that's the big thing about Brandon. When you play in this system, Bryan and Tony, you're going to get on that field on Friday night. He rotates guys in and out constantly. Freshman play. It's amazing. So you build and you build and you build. But so by the time you're a junior and a senior, it's not your first time on the football field. You've been there pretty much from the time you were a freshman. You put in the work, you're going to see the field, and Brandon rewards all those kids with playing time, and they all respond. But I don't know, Tony, how was it when you were a kid? Because the big thing for me when I was a student at Richland, you couldn't even play organized football until you were in junior high school, and now these kids are able to start when they're in first grade, second grade, third. I think that's a big help. But that's the way it was when we were here. I don't know how it was up by your neck of woods by Pittsburgh. Were you did you have football earlier than that, or was it basically junior high school was when you started as well?
Well, I played in '84. That was a 12 and 13-year-old league. That was midget football. But after that, I think there was another level, and then it was high school. So I think around here it started around. Well, for me, it started at 12. I don't know. I think there are leagues that are younger than that, but I didn't really pick it up till I was 12, so I can't answer that one.
Because Bryan, I think when you guys got about that age, we did have a league for.
It just started when I was in 7th grade. So your brother Jimmy and I, we played the first season, the inaugural season in 1983. Yeah. And so I played in 7th and 8th grade. That was the Pee-wee, the Geistown Richland PWFL. And but I would have definitely been involved in 1st and 2nd grade. That would have been amazing to be a Richland Rocket. I wish that was a whole lot earlier. So you tell Coach Bailey, great job. I need to get him on the show. You tell your buddies, Fred. Tell Fred. I apologize.
Fred and PJ wanted to be here tonight. Unfortunately, they could not make this podcast, but they definitely want to join in. Bryan, your invitation is to you, and Tony, if you're ever in on a Friday night in Richland.
Oh, I'm coming in.
More than welcome. Come up to the booth. Come on the radio. Fred would love to interview you guys at halftime. It's like his thing. The halftime is the biggest thing for Fred Yanity. He will search the stands during pregame to find somebody he can interview at halftime. We had the whole Ispan family on at one point. We had Dave, we had Jeff, we had their kids, and it's a good time. And we are nationwide as well. We just got live streamed as of last season, so people are live streaming us from other states around the country, which is really nice. They can listen to Richland football. We even had one overseas, Scott Hudson from Thailand, came in and
awesome. Number 77
joined. So
hey, great. Thank you very much. I was going to tell you, let Fred know that I do apologize to him for denying him my football skills. And if I could go back in time, I'd give them to him. I'd play fullback for him. And you saw me on the Turkey Bowl games where we play backyard football, so that'd be awesome. But Ed, do you mind sticking around for?
Absolutely, we're going to go into the fun, boys. I enjoy this. Yeah, it'd be great.
All right, thanks. We're going to go to Matt P. Steeler now. In Australia, we play tackle rugby from under 8s at age 7. So, gosh, that's tough. $2.99. Thanks, Matt P. That. I tell you what, they don't make them like that here. Tackle rugby at that age, and there's no pads. Gosh,
no, that's insane. That's insanity. That's what that is. Yes,
Tony, have you ever played rugby?
No, I'd like to play it, or I wanted to play it when I was younger. It looked like a fun game, but I never really did.
So let's open up Q&A. So any questions that you have, whether they be about high school football with Ed, back to the Steelers with us, feel free to let us know. Wes is a contributor, and we had Wes on the show a couple weeks ago. I ain't got the stack to play rugby.
Hey, me and you both, Wes.
I tell you what, I had some of my fraternity brothers at UPJ. They had a rugby club, and there's some guys that were crazy. I remember one kid named Lionel when I was there, and Lionel was from Philly, and he was the enforcer on the rugby team. I don't think he ever got the ball. He just ran around with his fist in the air. And you were afraid of Lionel. He was gosh, I went to those rugby games, those UPJ rugby games, and I was like, wow, these guys are maniacs. That's awesome. So Matt P. Steelers says no pads, less concussions. So I don't know how that's possible, but there you go.
It's probably technique, I would guess. You're keeping your head out of the way. I would imagine it's more about technique.
Yeah, that's a big thing, Tony. Don't you agree? Watching a game, an NFL game, these guys leading with their heads constantly, head down, head just. Tackle. I watched so many plays that if the guy would just make the tackle, the play is over, and yet we go for these big hits, these big, head on head hits, and the player stands up and keeps going. And all you've done is now hurt yourself or put somebody in a position to get hurt. When if you would just wrap up and make the tackle, play's over.
Yeah, those instructional videos the position coaches were releasing 2 years ago. When they were trying to get the helmet hits out of the game, it looked like football. I mean, it just looked like football with great technique. Yeah. So I think there's hope for the future.
I like to see good tackles. I mean, Jerry Olszewski was one of my favorite linebackers of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Talk about, did Jerry O ever miss a tackle?
Jerry O.
I don't think Jerry O ever missed a tackle. If he was around the football, you were going down. He was tackling you. He wasn't going to ever make a highlight reel, but the player was down and play was over.
So let's go to Alfred. Alfred, I'm not even going to try. I guess I am. Fustaki. Alfred Fustaki. It's like Mr. Takagi from not Miyagi. I'm talking the real Mr. Takagi from the Christmas classic Die Hard. Claypool equals Mike Thomas type of steal. What do you guys think, guys? Do you think Mike Thomas? Tony, I'll start with you. I mean, do you think that's a good comparison for Chase Claypool? Claypool hasn't shown anything yet because he hasn't had the opportunity to. Would you say Chase Claypool could equal a Mike Thomas?
Well, if he does, it would be a steal because Michael Thomas is one of the best receivers in the game right now. I think he's the guy who's probably going to get paid the next, or maybe he's already been paid. But yeah, I mean, he reminds me of, and maybe I just have black and gold glasses on. I focus too much on the Steelers, but he reminds me, like I keep saying, of a bigger version of Juju. So and we talked about Calvin Johnson last week. There's a guy that if he wound up having that kind of career, wow. So anything's possible, and I'm not even sure you could call him a steal at this point. I mean, he was a really good prospect coming out of college.
Ed, what do you think, Claypool?
I love the pick, Bryan. I love when they made the pick. He's got that big body frame, and it's going to be all on Chase Claypool. How he performs during camp, what kind of chemistry he has with Ben, and if you have Juju and Claypool playing at the top, this could be real nice for the Pittsburgh Steelers and a real coup. And don't forget Ebron at tight end. I think that was a big move for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow, I mean, who is not a weapon now? Who's the odd man out in that? I mean, is it Vance McDonald in that odd man out with all these guys coming in, or is it just a pick your poison, Tony?
I think it's pick your poison because I mean, we know how much Ben loves Vance McDonald. So, I mean, I don't think he's going to purposely exclude him. Not that he would do that anyway. I just think you have so much talent that he's going to, provided everything works out with him and with the offense and they're in sync, he's going to have just so many weapons to throw to. I mean, as far as even the guys we don't talk about as much as we should, guys like James Washington, he came on so much last year. He could be a guy that surprises us in 2020. And obviously we saw what Deontay Johnson did. So I just think, there's just so many possibilities. It's hard to, I don't think anybody's going to be the odd man out. I think they're all going to, provided Ben is Ben again. I think it's just going to be he's going to have a great time throwing many different targets instead of trying to focus on number 84, which was the thing he had to do the last time he was at full health.
Ed DiMartino, here's a question for you. Can Ben Roethlisberger, with all these added weapons, save Ryan Switzer's job?
Oh, there's $100,000 question. I don't know about that one. I'm going to abstain from that question as well. That's just too hard of a question to answer.
Tony, I'll throw it back to you. Will Ben save?
I think he has that kind of influence. I think he's the real life version of number 83. I think he's the human version of the Heath Miller jersey. I think he really didn't do a whole lot last year to get to remain on the team, but unless he shows out in training camp this year, provided there is one, then and still makes the team, I would be surprised if he makes the team. And if he does make the team, that can only be because of number 7.
There you go. I got to bring this one up. X Eddie B says fullback. This is back to me talking about how I'd be a fullback with Finney guard pants is what he's trying to say there. And I'm going to explain this to you. Just like you knew me 40 years ago, I've got a lot of eccentricities, and one of them is the fact that I own a pair of BJ Finney's actually game-worn pants, and I've worn them on occasion on the show, on location, and people don't realize that when you knew me, I was a little guy. They don't know me as the guy 250 plus now. I was a tiny dude back then. You could probably vouch for that. You're the one person who can vouch.
I can vouch for that.
I was small, and you saw me recently. Not small anymore. I'm still short, but not small. You would be amazed. So Finney goes what, 315? BJ Finney, I think he's about 315, and he's a lot taller. I don't know what Richland High School's pants are like, but they paint these things on. These professional athletes. I mean, I could barely tighten the belt on it, and I weigh a lot less than BJ Finney, and I could hardly put them on. These football pants are amazing, but if anybody makes them look good, Antonio will vouch. I do. So yeah, I would have, but I wanted to bring that up.
I wrote a blog about it.
I was a little,
no.
definitely talk about it. Here's a question. Ezra, a great contributor to our live chat. His question is, if we can afford Hassan Reddick, picture him, TJ, Devin, and Bud. Reddick's out there, I believe. So, I mean, when you get to this point, you can afford guys because they're willing to take minimums. And Reddick was only drafted 3 or 4 years ago. So if he's a possibility, would you bring Hassan Reddick on? I'll start with Ed.
At this stage of the game, Bryan, I don't think I would unless it is an absolute bargain basement. I think there's enough there with those 3 guys to bring in Hightower now who can offer some sort of pass rush as well. I don't do it unless it's bargain basement.
Tony?
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I think it has to be a very good price for them at this stage. I mean, they have only so much, and they have a whole draft class they have to try to sign. So yeah, it would have to be like, I don't think it would be veteran minimum, but it would have to be close to that.
All right, let's get our passports out. Let's head to Randy Land. Bad, Tony, and Ed, what are your thoughts on Coach Randy being replaced by Canada before the season is over? That's I'm going to start on this one. And my answer to this, Cree, is Ben won't let it happen. And that's nothing against Ben, but Coach Randy is there because Ben wanted Coach Randy to be there. Coach Randy was exposed last year when Ben wasn't there. He had to be an offensive coordinator, and he's a quarterback's coach. I can see Canada being the offensive coordinator in the future, maybe as early as 2021. But if the Steelers come back and have a good season, in which we're hoping and expecting with Ben Roethlisberger, I don't see Coach Randy going anywhere. Coach Randy is going to go as far as Ben Roethlisberger. Tony, take it.
Yeah, that would be a totally un-Steeler-like move to fire a coordinator before the season's over. I mean, and remember a year ago at this time, it's about the whole Matt Canada taking over next year for Fichtner. I mean, people were saying the same thing about Terrell Austin taking over for Keith Butler this year, and they're all still here. I mean, I think all these guys have influence. I mean, they all contribute to the game plan on both offense and defense. So, I mean, could I see Matt Canada being the coordinator next year? Possibly, but certainly not before the season's over, unless it's so bad that they have no choice but to make a move.
Okay, Robert says this. It's not a question, but he's predicting Ben Roethlisberger 35 TDs. Over, under. Let's start with Tony.
I'm going to say under, but only because I think they're going to try to have a balanced offense. I think it's going to be John Elway 2.0, and they're going to rely more on running, and you're not going to see Ben passing 60 times a year anymore.
Ed?
I take the over, Bryan. I think Ben's motivated. Ben wants to show that he's completely healthy. I think he's putting the ball in the air, and I think he goes over 35 TDs.
I take the over, so I side with Ed. Wes, part of me wonders if Terrell Austin and Matt Canada are part of a post-Tomlin succession plan. Wes, another great contributor to our show. Tony, do you think so?
Well, I mean, Mike Tomlin brought both of those guys in. So usually when they get rid of the head coach, they clean house. So probably, I would have to say probably not. Because if it's bad enough to get rid of the head coach, it means the coordinators or what I said coordinators, Freudian slip. The guys on his staff probably weren't doing a great job, so they're probably going to want to go in an entirely new direction unless they have a future Dick LeBeau on staff right now.
Okay, I missed some questions here. Question for Ed. I predicted 43 TD. Ooh, lost it there. I predicted 43 TDs. I keep losing it. For our offense, receiving weapons, JJ, DJ, J-Dub, CC, EE, VM, 88 total passing TDs for Ben. What do you think our wide receiver core and Ben can accomplish?
I think Ben is somewhere between the 40 and 45 TD pass range this year. That'd be my guess with the weapons that he has. I'm going between 40 and 45.
Okay, guys, I've got a question for you both. Does Ben make the weapon, or are the weapons going to make Ben this year? Tony.
Well, I mean, we saw last year how much he means to the offense. So I think Ben makes the weapons. Not that these weapons aren't talented; they're clearly talented. But I think Ben's going to make the weapons, as you see with most NFL offenses.
Eddie.
Yeah, I think quarterback makes the player better. I think Ben makes those players better. He will throw them open. So even if they don't get it, Ben will throw them open. So yeah.
I agree with Ezra. I agree with you guys. Quarterbacks make the weapon. So we're getting ready to wrap up real soon. I would be remiss if I did not talk about one of the all-time NFL greats that is actually partly responsible for the Steelers dynasty, as the late great Don Shula, not just Miami Dolphins, but of the Baltimore Colts. How is he responsible? Chuck Noll was on staff with Don Shula with the Baltimore Colts. I got to tell you, when I read the news today, the only thing that I could think of when I thought of Don Shula was class. That's one word I would always think of that guy. I hated the Dolphins, but I never hated Don Shula. And the reason I hated the Dolphins is because when I was growing up, they were pretty good in the 80s. And then when Marino went there, Marino shouldn't have gone there. But when he ended up there, I was like, oh, here we go. And I was only 11 at the time. And I just knew what that team could accomplish. Don Shula, every time he talked, there was nothing that came out from Don Shula that was negative. This guy was pure class, and I absolutely admired this guy. May he rest in peace at the age of 90. Gone, a great, great man. Before I ask you both your thoughts on Don Shula, I want to go ahead and talk about a story about Don Shula that I read right when he passed, when he became the all-time coaching wins leader back in 1993. And this is a great story because on his first date with the woman that became his wife for a number of years, he asked her a very strange request and asked her to do something. And what it was, asked her to run backwards to see what kind of athlete she was for future children. I just thought that was absolutely incredible.
That's fantastic.
If she didn't run well, I still think she would have been his number one draft choice as a wife. But I just thought that was amazing. So, Tony, your thoughts on the great Don Shula?
Oh yeah, they were talking on social media all day about the Mount Rushmore of coaches, and when I think of the greatest coach, I'm not just saying this either. When I think of the greatest coaches, I always think of Don Shula as one of them because I mean, obviously you mentioned those great Colts teams of the '60s, and then what he did with the Dolphins in the '70s, the only perfect season in NFL history, at least modern NFL history, and then of course in the '80s he went through his own Super Bowl era, and then he created another one under even before Dan Marino. They were in a Super Bowl with David Woodley. He didn't win them, but he brought his team back up to contention again in the '80s. And as you said, he retired as the all-time wins leader. If he still is, I apologize for not knowing that. Yeah, but I know he retired as the. Okay, so there you go. So yeah, he's one of the most influential people in the history of the game. So yeah, his loss will be felt by all levels of the NFL.
Now, Ed, I know I could probably speak for you when I say this, that Don Shula probably caused a lot of heartburn in your house growing up in a Jets house.
Yeah.
I know you were the lone Steeler fan there. What are your thoughts on on Don Shula? Well,
you hit it right on the head, Brian. When you think of Don Shula, it's just complete class. That man was just an icon. Great guy. Love listening to him speak. Never a bad word that I can ever utter about Don Shula. He had a great life. 90 years old. God bless him. God bless his family. May he rest in peace. And he will be forever one of the best coaches in the NFL.
Well, thank you. Fantastically said by both of you. And we're seeing a lot of things about Don Shula in the live chat. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here. First and foremost, thank you to you in the live chat. Remember, we can't do this show without you. You are the heart and soul of the show. We appreciate you. You are our Behind the Steel Curtain family, and we love you. So thank you very much to you. To Ed DiMartino and the Richland High School Rams. Go Rams, go. I could do this, Ed. I got to do this before we go. Dun 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 dun. Let's go Rams.
Yep. Hey, we played the NBC sports theme. Remember the old NBC sports theme? That was in the football team still comes out to the NBC sports theme long ago. So
I looked for that on YouTube recently and I found it. Just for great memories,
awesome.
Because I played bass drum and I just remember the boom, boom, boom.
I was tenor saxophone. Yeah. Anybody ever wants to listen Friday night, go to www.johnstownforevermedia.com and you can click on the live and catch some Richland Ram football. Hopefully be another great season for the Rams.
All right. Thanks so much. Tell Coach we need to see him on the show. And we appreciate you, Ed. Thanks for coming on. And tell all my red, white, and blue friends in Richland that I said hello. So with that being said, thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Tony. Great meeting you. Hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Nice meeting you, Ed.
All right, Tony. Once again, you hear Tony Defeo here every Monday, but now you hear him on Saturdays with Brunch with Tony. Great debut show. I listened in. I was power washing and I listened in, and it was a great time. Tony, you're a natural, and your fans, they spoke for a long time. They wanted you on Tuesdays with Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday with Tony, but we've got Brunch with Tony, which is just as good. Make sure you check out that show every Saturday with Tony Defeo. He is definitely going to be the man on your Saturdays. So We love to hear it. I thought you did a great job, Tony.
Well, thank you. And thank you to Wes and everybody else for all the love.
All right. So for Ed DiMartino and Tony Defeo, my name is Bryan Anthony Davis. You call me bad. I love you, my friends. And to quote the great Rowdy Roddy Piper, just when you think you know all the answers,
we keep changing the questions. Have a great week.
All right. Good night, my friends. We'll see you. Take care.